Hey everybody, welcome back to Randomly Selected. It's Mario. We here, man. Randomly Selected is powered by the Silver Room. I'm so happy about today's show. As we come out of this kind of cold into fake spring, we are going to bring you something that's truly dope today. My man Jason Goff is on the show. Jason Goff is a media mogul. Don't let nobody tell you different. He's the host of The Full Go. You can catch that wherever you get podcasts. And he's also the host of Chicago Bulls Pre and Post. And we'll get into all that stuff in a minute. But right now, would you join me, please, in welcoming, although welcoming is not a word, Mr. Jason Goff. It's Randomly Selected. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason. What up, Jason?
Yo, what's happening, bro?
Hey, there he is. What's up, bro?
How you doing?
Man, you know, every time I see you, I'm doing fine. Things are good. How's my boy?
He's good, man. He's good. He's at daycare tearing shit up. You know how it is.
Yes, I do. I do. I'm not gonna keep you forever, I promise.
Nah, man, it's on you. You.
But
I was trying to listen to all that before I got about it. You know,
I figured as much, and it's a lot. That's the Bears, the Chicago Bears, man. They are we definitely gonna touch on that today. Yep. How you been, man? How is everything? You are busy, bro. I mean,
I don't know if I'm busy. It's busier than I used to be, but but you know, like there's the ebbs and flows of this. Like there's a while where I didn't have 2 gigs, and now I got 2 or 3. So better than alternative. I won't complain.
I feel you. I think it says a lot about the moment that we're in. I was having a conversation with somebody about Black people in media over the weekend.
Yeah.
And how media representation, depending on what part of the country you live in, it's either really good for Black people and it's a very visible kind of thing, or it's like a vapid, vacant hole. Here in Chicago, we seem to be in the like the median of it. There's you, there's Lawrence, there's Hood. I mean, and Ryan, they're people. We're represented pretty well.
Yeah.
But the spots we're in are different. You have a pretty good view of what's happening. What's your take on Black media in the United States?
Yeah, in the city or in the country?
In both.
In the city, there's all the people that you just mentioned, obviously, and then you get the fellas, the bigs, Gene and Terrence out there, and their whole situation. Like they got a whole group now. Those guys going out covering Bears games. They had 2 and 3 different events because they got people, right? They got a network, they got a community, and I think there's a lot of people like that. I forget the name of the podcast, and they're gonna kill me. I think it's like 79th the Hallis Drive.
Yeah.
There is more representation out there than we'd like to, think. We just got to make sure that more people are aware of those movements, right? And in the end, whenever we talk about this or whenever it comes up, I always say it ain't enough, because I can't wait till people realize that there is a whole swath and spectrum of Black people who don't agree on everything.
Right. So, ain't that gonna be fun?
Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of like when we talk about Black head coaches in the NFL, right? And it's like those dudes don't get a chance to mess up more than once. And when they do, they out of there. I like if you get to the point where we see, and I'm going to be dead ass with you. We see conservative leaning Black sports talkers, right? Where we see, as well as the progressive Black sports talkers, like we see the entire spectrum of what we are as a community. Because as well as I know, we don't all agree on everything, but there are certain ones who are catapulted into, I won't say celebrity or the spotlight, but there's a lot of filters that weed a lot of people out whose voices I feel like need to be heard. Right. And until it gets to that point where it resembles some of the conversations that we have in normal everyday goings, because let's face it, we don't have to talk about white sports media in the same frame, because we see, it runs the gambit from the Nick Wrights of the world to the Clay Travises of the world, right? Like you know you can go wherever you want to go to and get what you need if you want that. Whereas with Black sports media, you know, you kind of get thrown into this niche of, all right, this is what this person must believe in, and then you move on from there. So I like to see the conversations be more wide ranging. And nationally, I mean, there's a lot of people who are doing great work and getting pushed to the forefront. I mean, watch what on the air with Bob Costas the other night, and I saw the whole Bomani Jones podcast on there with Howard Bryant and Dominique Foxworth, and that's what I've always tried to insist upon, right? Like, we don't need martyrs out here. Just give us a chance. Give us a chance and hear the content, hear the things that you might think are entertaining or edgy or whatever the case may be. It's just normal conversation, right? Like, you know, Black sports media has become a different sense of inventory since the pandemic started, since the George Floyd awakening of this country in a lot of ways. You know, Black sports media now is the place where people go because they know the clicks are going to follow. And they know that there's a bunch of white kids out here who are a part of the culture just by osmosis, right? Just by listening to the music, just by watching the movies, maybe not living the entire existence, but those people are being indoctrinated in a way of life that they just look at it as American culture, where we're like, okay, we didn't grow up with all of this, right? We didn't have the 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 girls and guys who we can commonly reference as, oh man, she don't know what the hell she's talking about. Or, you know what, I agree with her. Or, you know, he's off the beaten path, but he comes back and I like it sometimes. So I like the fact that this guy makes this person uncomfortable, these kinds of people uncomfortable. We only had, you know, 2 or 3 people, and those people were usually the hosts, right? Those studio hosts or, you know, the sidekicks or something like that. So now that we're getting like a stranglehold, not only on the message and on the voicing of these things, but actually being able to say, no, this guy's kind of wild. And even though he's Black, it don't matter. You know, like, that's when I know this thing will have taken the next step in the evolutionary process, where it's like, yeah, that person's got the same skin tone as I do, but we don't agree on it. And it's okay. And it's okay, right? So that I think we've come a long way, but there's obviously still a long way to go, right? Because I mean, it's relatively a new medium too when we're talking about electronic Black media too, right? I mean, we're talking about mid to late 90s at best. So, you know, 25, 30 years of something being in the bloodstream and being pushed back against, and finally being accepted because the consumer base now is us and people like us and the people who rock with us. You know, it's changing times, and I like seeing it because there's a lot of great young content creators out there.
In this segment of the program, we talked to Jason about his thoughts around Black media in Chicago and around the country. We also asked him about what he's trying to convey when he's doing his thing. And then finally, I asked about the full go and how that all came about.
Man, oh wow, that's something I've never thought of before. Just, you know, not being scared to say the stuff that I say behind closed doors in front of your face, you know, because I feel like my instincts are usually right, and it's just about trusting them. Because there'll be times where something gets said and I was like, just thinking about that shit yesterday and I didn't say it. You know what I'm saying? Or it'll just be something innocuous and you're like, damn it, it's like, I've been thinking about this for weeks. And finally somebody said it because I was hemming and hawing, or I was doing something else, or thinking about something, like thinking of something that's more important and more engaging. Just finding your voice, man. I'm 41, Mario, and I've been, you know, I started interning when I was 19, 20 years old. And I know this entire time I've been trying to say, I have been saying what I felt, while also making sure that everyone understood which vein it was coming from, right? Like sometimes you say things and people, I'll never forget when the Colin Kaepernick stuff was going on, and we had Boomer Esiason on. And, you know, if you go back and listen to the conversation too, he mentioned something, because we were at odds about Colin and his stance, obviously. And he mentioned something in the middle of the interview, and he was like, "You're getting emotional." So, and I was like, "Ain't that a bitch?" Like, even in this moment where I'm not, and I'm the host of the show, and you're on my show, you are telling me that I am doing something or a disservice to the conversation, if you will. Like emotions, when we hear emotions and sensitivity, we never ascribe positive values to it, right? And in that little moment, I like, the reason why that's such a flashpoint for me is that it's been my entire career where I've said things, meant things, felt things, and there was a certain emotion attached to it. And the same emotion that people loved when I was saying things about sports, they kind of ran away from when it wasn't about sports or the sports that they wanted to talk about. So this entire time for 20 years, man, I've been trying to understand how to best get my message across while also not giving as much of an as people want me to. Because in the end, you know, Terry Boers told me a long time ago, you know, fail with your voice, right? Fail being who you are in this way. And I try to live through that. And I just told my lady this morning about like not giving people your blame, so you have to give them your rewards. And when things go wrong, it's because I meant it. It's because I said it, right? And when things go right, it's because I meant it. It's because I said it. And I hope that through 20 years, whatever we've been doing here, that it came across that way, you know? And when we was joking around and having fun, it's because I meant it. And I said it, and I wanted to have fun with you. When I made it uncomfortable, it's because I meant it, and I said it, and I needed it to happen in that manner. And not worrying about some of the repercussions. You know, I before the score thing happened, I had people coming up to me left and right. I'll never forget. I was hooping in Niles at the same place that a former sports radio host, you know, used to work out at. I didn't know he was working out at anymore, and he came up to me and, you know, caught up with me for like 2-3 seconds in the middle of the game, and he was like, "Hey, man, you know, good to see you, whatever." And all of a sudden, the mood broke, and he goes, "Be careful with that Kaepernick stuff, because they're gonna come for you. You know, you don't want to rub people the wrong way. Your career is getting ready to take off," like brass tacks, verbatim. And I'm sitting there looking at him, I'm like, "Yeah, I got it. I'll be all right." And in that moment, I knew that people had danced around stuff like that around me, but nobody had said it that clearly. And I was glad somebody said it, because this way I couldn't look it in the face as anything else other than what it was. So it's either we're gonna play this game of chicken, right? You're gonna run me off the road back into the box that you want me to be in, or I'm gonna run you off the road by making your content less than what it was without my presence.
That's authenticity.
You know what it is? I don't even know. It may be dumb, it may be authenticity. I can't be around anywhere that doesn't want me there. And the moment I realize that, you know, I start to understand, all right, it's time to make a move. And when that happened, I was like, oh, that's what they're thinking. That's what they feel. Because this person was tapped in with everybody still at the station, the new general manager, like this person. So this was coming from somebody who had heard this and said, hey, cool out. And, you know, that person is now back on the airwaves, and I'm having a blast doing what I'm doing. And you know, on top of that, you get validation from the outside entities. Like, we live in a very weird sports media bubble in this city, right? Where it's like you've got the people who are the industry standard, like the people who sound and look just like the powers that be want them to sound and look like. And then you get the other people who, you know, just bouncing around, trying to create content, having fun with their people. I kind of got locked into the box of bouncing around, having fun with your people, but I was good at it too. You know what I mean? That's not like it wasn't just me having side conversations with the homies. It was me doing this for years and years and years and years before I got my chance to finally go do it. And even so, when the chance wasn't open here, I was like, hey man, I'm gonna take my ass to Atlanta. I gotta get this thing popping. Like, I gotta go. I didn't miss out on my formative years in college in terms of learning who you are, learning what you need to be, and learning to depend on yourself. I skipped all that just to jump into the business as early as I possibly could. I didn't do all that and sacrifice all that fun and evolution just to mess around and have your thumb on me. Nah. Right. So, went to Atlanta, that went the way it went, came back here. I'll say this, for whatever has been going on for a couple of decades now, somebody's always found it in their heart that I was going to be better for their product than without me. So, whether it be ESPN, Sirius XM, Bleacher Report, now with the Ringer, NBC Sports Chicago, like somebody's understanding, and there's a necessary lane, or a lane that can be filled, I should say. Maybe not even necessary, but a lane that can be filled when it comes to me. So I'm appreciative, and I keep getting confirmed that it's okay to be me.
In this portion of our program, I'm asking Jason about the Full Go and how it came about. We also talk about the journey of mental health and how he is okay with expressing his thoughts on it, and trust me, he is okay. And with all that being said, man, Jason, as far as the Full Go goes, you, sir, are killing it.
I appreciate that, man, because every episode, it's so crazy. Every episode that we do, for instance, we taped last night, and the morning after we tape, it's like, should I share this one? You know what I'm saying? Like, should I tweet this one out? Because I come into this room, like as you can see, through your Zoom communications with me right now, I got a pink couch with green pillows behind me, right? Like this is the room that I created, right?
Nice.
And I never thought that the podcast thing was going to take off for me, because I was frankly too scared to fail. And the way Bill Simmons came about is, he, just like you said, he hit me. He got my phone number from somebody. He texted me and was like, yo, we want to do this, and we want to do this now. We want to do this in Chicago. And from all of my research, you seem like the guy that I need to do this with. And I was like, cool, because to be dead ass with you, I had not consumed a whole lot of the Ringer's product. I hadn't. Right? My buddies, all about it. My family, all about it. Like my man Big Joe in Atlanta, when I told him, he went crazy, because he's read everything Bill has ever written. He's watched and consumed all of it, right? Like I was, I've always stayed on the outside of the orbit of the tastemakers and the trend setters and people who move the needle when it comes to sports conversation, not because I'm on some hate and shit. It was always because I was like, I don't want my thoughts to be influenced by whatever great thought they may have, because at some point it's gonna morph into and become my thought, and I don't want to bite anybody's stuff, right? So and Bill was that kind of guy where I was like, yeah, I know why he's famous, I know why he's popular, I know why people consume his content. I just it was a blind spot for me, just like when people used to talk to me about Barstool, right? And I'm like, I used to be like, dog, I don't know a whole lot about them other than what everybody knows, right? Like I'm not jumping in and consuming it on that level. So when he texted me, I was like, oh, this is wild, but okay, making sure that things are signed, sealed, and delivered is something that I want to be sure that everybody out there understands. In this business, ain't nothing happening until it is happening. Okay, so when he first reached out to me, I was like, oh, this is pretty dope. Like, I'm not a bum. And people might like to hear my thoughts, right? Because I suffer from imposter syndrome like none other.
Right.
But when we started moving and shaking, and the contract came through, and we started talking about numbers and all this other stuff, I was like, oh, this is gonna happen, because I talked to my lady about it. Like, I bought the podcast machine. I went on Amazon and bought one, like $750, something like that. Clinton Yates was like, all right, this is how you hook it up. This is what you do. You got to get cooking on that. That joint sat on my dining room table for a good 2 or 3 months collecting dust. And I would turn it on and it would light up real pretty. And then I would turn it off because I didn't think anybody was really rocking with me like that. Like I thought that once, and that was my fear of doing TV, is that I wouldn't be considered a radio guy anymore, and that I wouldn't consider myself that, because radio guys in the trenches doing it every single day. And the podcast thing was like, okay, if you start this thing from ground level, it's going to take a little time to build up, which I believe in myself, but at the same time, are you still good enough to do it? Right? All these questions started going back through my head because, this last 2.5 years, 3 years has been kind of weird, right?
Yeah, man.
We're not experiencing things with the same joy in the same way. Like I got disconnected from sports in a way that I never thought I would because all that stuff that was happening in the summer, was it 2020? Like that impacted and resonated with me on a level that I not never thought it would have, but I was surprised that it did. Like I unplugged in a way that, I question, like, man, like, is this the move for me? Like, it keeps kicking me in my ass. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So when Bill reached out, I knew it was the next thing. The money was right, and I thought to myself, I'm going to do this 3 days a week and be compensated well, and not have to go through the rigmarole of creative control or worrying about. If the powers that be liked something that I said, he told me straight up, man, I'm here for you. So whatever you is, bring it. And you can hear it. Those first few pods, I was out here straight sports in it. Like that first pod, I went 42 minutes straight off the rip. Cerruti looked at me and was like, hey man, we can't do shit with this. You just talk for 45 minutes straight. Like we got to throw commercials in there somewhere. Like it's still a format. And as I slowly but surely started to settle down a little bit. And by the way, all this was happening while I was in Vegas. My lady's best friend's husband was celebrating a birthday, and I'm talking to Bill on the phone, texting him back and forth about the deal and what might be happening. I'm talking to producers, I'm talking to Steve Cerruti, and I'm getting amped up about it. And then when it's time to go, it's Sunday Night Football with the Rams and the Bears. And I'm in my son's room, sweating, hot, just trying to give everything that I hadn't given in 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be. But, in the long run, I'm appreciative. The relationship has been cool so far. Things are working out to my liking. They got a really cool staff over there. And they said, what do you need? And I told them, Chris Tannehill, because Tanny understands. He understands me. And he also understands that I don't trust a lot of folks. So even new folks who come in, it's kind of like a probationary period. And he understood that he had to be like the bridge between me and everybody else out there. Not on some, rah-rah, just, things have happened in my career.
Man.
So I had to be aware that I was going in there, not just solo dolo. But yeah, man, the Bill Simmons, the Ringer, and the Spotify situation, it is worked to my liking, and I think we're getting better each pod. And it's been fun though. It's been fun to be able to create on that level because I was locked up for a little bit, man. I was locked up, not being able to be who I know myself to be. Like television is a boatload of fun, but I'm still learning. And this thing that I did for 16 years, just 17 years actually, just went away, and it left me with a little bit of a hole. Not a little bit of a hole, a lot of a hole. But through therapy and new ventures and all the other stuff, and my family and friends, people like you, always having a good word. I'm in a better space than I used to be, and a lot of it is because of how I feel professionally. To be honest with you, I know people like to say, work will be work, and just try to ground yourself in the hey man, I'll run to the professional side. Like when things ain't right, I know work could get me back in the groove I need to. And I know that's probably not the healthiest thing, but we working through it.
I know that we are in a moment in our country where mental health is everything. Yeah. And being able to say, I need a day off. I need not to go to this movie. I need not to talk to this person on the phone. Man. I need to read a book. I need to just give myself the praise of myself that I should be getting, since I'm not getting it from anybody else. And I know that you have embarked on a journey of making sure that your mental health is good. And I know it's a lot to have a child. Yeah. And you're about to get married, and then you got this career that's happening. You got this child's mother. You got a lot of things. Your orbit has a lot of planets in it, right? Yeah. How are you able to handle that for folks that might need to know that it's cool to say I need a little bit of help? How do you?
I'm still learning, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm still getting yelled at for not saying that enough. It's hard, we jump into what we think will make us happy for the rest of our lives, right? Yeah. And sometimes it's not the rest of your life. You know, sometimes I like to say, you know, you do something every day and then you wake up and it's forever. And hopefully that's, you know, in your love life, in your professional life, but it's not linear like that, right? It's jagged edges to all of it. And you know, I've lived a lot of my life publicly since I was, you know, a young adult. And it may be a small public base, but, you know, sports radio and, you know, people were hearing my phone calls when I was 12, 13 years old. And then at 19, 20, when I finally jumped on to the station that people kind of knew I was the silly kid calling from Evanston. And now all of a sudden I'm trying to work in that lane. Like I said, I haven't gone through maybe the proper ways to deal with all of those things because I was too busy trying to work and also trying to have some semblance of life. And when both of those things kind of got away from me, you know, you're like spinning out of control, but you're also still working. Yeah. And you're also still making sure that nobody's seeing you crack, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of cracking that goes on behind the scenes. You just, you know, you put yourself back together. You get help from people who can help put you back together. You try to figure out what you're doing wrong in the moment, and sometimes more importantly, what you're not doing wrong, right? Because I said, with the blame and rewards thing, like I put a lot on myself and on my shoulders because I know, you know, sometimes people can't handle it. Right. And even if they might be in the wrong, they can't handle it. So you just got to keep it moving and know that right now they won't be able to handle it the way you need it to be handled. I know for a fact that, you know, and my doctor, Dr. Wilson, you know, March will be a year that I've been seeing her. And before her, I was going to somebody else who just, you know, that's the other thing too. Try people out. You know, like
I've heard that. You gotta kind of like check out. You gotta read the room on a therapist. I've heard that.
I had the first go around. I had a therapist who pretty much sent me an email. I was like, "Yeah, I ain't gonna be doing this no more. So, so it'd be best if you go find somebody else. I wish you well in all your journey." You know what I'm saying? And I showed it to Pia. She was like, "This is unconscionable. Like this shouldn't happen." I was like, "Yeah, it happens though. If it was gonna happen to somebody, it's gonna happen to me." So it happened. Right. But yeah, like I said, just understanding that, you know, you're not built to deal with everything. Everybody thinks like, you know, the stronger you seem is the stronger you are, and more times than not, it's the opposite. So you find the people that you know can handle and deal with your stresses in a manner that's going to be the best for you. Whether it be your therapist or your pastor, or your preacher, or your imam, whatever the case may be, or a close friend, or, you know, somebody that you could talk to, and somebody that's a good listener, somebody that's not going to, you know, give you the whole, I've been through that too. It's like, nah, fam, I just want you to listen right now. You know what I'm saying? Like those things. But yeah, man, I mean, my son, it means the world to me. And there's nothing that I won't do for him. And I pray every day that I'm doing not only right by him, but ensuring that he understands how he should be treated and how he should treat people, and trying to lay that roadmap, you know, trying to show him how he should treat his mother as well, you know, making sure that try to keep that as above board as possible, because none of these things, like, when everything went down, you know, you think to yourself like, oh man, like I'm the only one that's going through this. And if the people find out, then, you know, it's going to be curtains for me. And then you actually, you know, you zoom out and you hear people talk about it in passing. And you're like, oh, okay. So all of y'all have been through something like this, you know, and you move on, right? Just trying to find some peace, trying to find some happiness, try to problem solve the best way possible. But you can't do any of it if your judgment is so clouded by anger or resentment or hurt. You know, I found that I had to, in my head, say sorry to a lot of people. Well, say I forgive you, I should say, to a lot of people who I wouldn't have before I started going to therapy, or before I started trying to talk some of these things out. And relieving people of that kind of power over me has been one of the better things, because I wouldn't be here if that was the case. Like if I was still mad at all the people that I'm supposed to be mad at and all that, like, yeah, you see people and you're like, you and I know what's going on, but it's all good. You know what I mean? Like you get on elevators with people, like I'll never forget, I got on the elevator with Jimmy DeCastro, and he didn't even know I was on the elevator with him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, old Jay would have made it real uncomfortable in here. But the newer me is like, I understand, man. You ain't know no better, and look how you ended up. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't know any better, right? You didn't know this. This wasn't the old Southwestern Conference anymore. You didn't know you can let the brothers in and come in and play and make your game a little bit better. Yeah, exactly. You know the vibes. so yeah, man. Just letting as many things go as possible, right? Like. I try to have this conversation with my lady, because my lady, she ain't for the games. And I try to have it with her, about like, hey, some battles, we can't fight all of them. You know what I mean? Like that person's going to have to go. You know what I mean? Like, that customer service rep going to have to just, That's right. You know what I mean? They just got to be on their own plane.
That's right.
And I think the more that we understand and try to control the temperature of what's going on in our lives, and sometimes not try to control it, let other people help. Like I'm trying to get in that vein of allowing people to get in and help me in ways that I am not used to. But for everybody out there, man, just take care of yourself, because you got to take care of yourself for you to be able to take care of others. And once you're taking care of yourself, sometimes people are watching you take care of yourself. Like I've had multiple people hit me up on direct messages and say, hey, man, I heard you talking about therapy and I jumped in, or I heard you talking about, a time where you broke down, or people go back and actually get the clips where I've broken down on the air. And it's like, oh, man, it really did something for me. I'm like, hey, man, as long as it did something. So,
right.
So, that's where we at with it. Just trying to stay above water, trying to make sure we enjoy these moments while we can with each other, because we only here for a finite amount of time,
Welcome back, y'all. We are having so much fun with my man Jason Goff, and we got to talk about my guy, the franchise, Jace. I asked Jason about how his kid has changed how he does his thing, and since Jace is such a unique and brilliant little dude, super special man, and how that's continuing to evolve as Jace gets older. We also talk about one of my favorite shows on television, which is the Chicago Bulls pre- and post-game show that Jason hosts. We ask about how the Bulls were involved in the decision for him to host it, a whole bunch of other stuff. Let me stop talking. This is Jason Goff.
Jason's positioned me with more courage than I ever thought I could have. I see a lot of myself in Jace, and my mother tells me a lot about when I was a kid and how I used to act in certain manners like Jace. Mm-hmm. But, certain environments, yield certain fruit, right? And if you're just that way and it isn't nurtured or developed, it's a waste. And I see, like you mentioned, how inquisitive he is, how gregarious he is. His vocabulary is off the charts. And a lot of people talk about their kids like, oh, my kid's the smartest man. I don't say all that. I just let people experience it, or, when he's around, just let him do his thing. He's changed me in so many ways that I didn't know were possible. One, he having him kind of kicked up that you got to make a way, even more so spirit in me. Like, all right, you got to make a way. Like you got to figure this out. Because if you remember, when I got let go, Jace was, he was still a baby. Like he's still an infant, right? Yeah. And thinking that you're going to be doing the thing that you've dreamed about since you were 11, 10 years old, and then finally coming to the point where you're now a parent, you're responsible for people. You've got somebody who is going to need that nurturing, going to need that discipline, going to need that foundation, and need that core. And oh, by the way, you are now a wreck because the rug's been pulled from underneath you, but you still got to be dad. It showed me a lot that I had in reserve that I wasn't using. So now when it comes to him, I mean, like you mentioned him being on the pod, like that dude loves loves showmanship, right? And
yes,
I was that way. Like, you know, my mom used to tell me about me sliding across the floor, you know, singing Bruce Springsteen songs with the broom in my hand and pretend like I was, you know, guitar strumming. I mean, all those things are the same. It's just now the understanding is on a different level. Like I can open him up to things that maybe I couldn't be opened up to as a kid, right? Whether it be with resources or the people. Like I show Jay because one, I think he's adorable and people, you know, people get picked up sometimes in their day, but also like I know when I'm no longer here that the city's gonna take care of my boy. And
for sure.
And he's gonna be ready for him, right? If that kid doesn't have anything normal in store. And I don't know what it is. Trust me, I'm praying that it's on the right side of things, but he is a little dude that I know that there's still a lot right with the world. Every time I'm around him, every time I that's why I'm so protective of him. You know, that's why people in my family are like, oh, he's just a baby. Don't worry about it. I'm like, nah, man, that's the franchise, bro. Like that's you understand. So
that's right.
Anytime I get a chance to talk about him, anytime I get a chance to, you know, be around and pick him up from school, hang out with him, do the puzzles, play the game, whatever the case may be. Like we have wondrous ideas, and I get to live a little bit of my childhood out every time I'm around him because I know what I would have wanted at that age, and I feel like we're similar dudes. But he's an amazing little guy, man. I can't wait to see what he's going to become because I know the entire city and the world, for that matter, has a lot on their hands when he gets a hold of what his personality truly is.
Yeah, that's my boy. I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan.
He's my Miles Morales.
That's it.
I'm pulling for him every day. Trust and believe.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. I real quick, I want to talk about Bulls pre and post.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you why I think it's the best show on TV. I watch NBA on TNT, and I watch how them dudes have been doing it for years now. I like the fact that it's not that. I go there for that. You know what I'm saying? I go to see Kenny run to the board. I go to see Chuck and Shaq argue. I go to see the genius of Ernie Johnson doing his thing, how he keeps that. He's the ringmaster of that show. I go there for that. Watching you, first of all, I don't know, and I told this to Lawrence Holmes. I don't know who the hell is doing y'all dressing. Who is whoever this individual is? I want to get down with him. The two best dressed dudes on TV are you and that doggone Lawrence Holmes. That's number one.
I appreciate you, bro.
Number two, I think what makes that show good, particularly during the COVID moment when it was clear that you guys could not be
around each other,
how you kind of just made it like, okay, look, we still got to deliver this product. We still got to talk about this team who was at the time not very good. And I got Kendall Gill here. I know he knows exactly what I'm on. It's just the way you drive that car that it's really, really impressive. And I knew whenever they got good, the show would even get better. And that's exactly what seems to have happened. Talk to me about that. And I know football's more your thing than hoops, but you are an expert on basketball. Talk to me about how that show has developed, particularly in the last, what you've been on it now, 3 seasons?
Yeah, this is my 3rd season, so 2.5 years, right?
Yeah, so from the beginning when you got there and then COVID happened, it's like every time something dope happens in COVID.
Yeah, COVID
come through. It's like a bad uncle or a terrible auntie or something. Yeah. Talk to me about how the show has developed in those 2.5 years you've been on it.
I mean, just like the situation with Bill, you know, Kevin Cross reached out a while ago and said, hey, man, I got an idea. And I think you might be the right guy for it. And then he told me what it was. And then he realized that I wasn't the right guy for it. You know, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but Kevin, when he was coming up with The Outsiders, he was like, hey, man, you know, might think about throwing you back in the rotation here. You know, the city needs your conversation and I rock with you. And I got an idea, but I don't know if, you know, I'm still fleshing it out. Yeah. And as we went along in the process, you the outsiders, Big Dave, Matt Peck, and John Sabine, our guys, he was looking for more of a fan's perspective at like post-show, right?
Yeah.
And he came to the understanding, and I didn't say anything, but I agreed with him that Jay is not just a fan, right? Like he's not, I won't say just a fan, but he's not in the fan lane in my career, right? I'm a fan, but I put some time into this, right? And you don't want to give off the wrong idea in terms of this is the relaxed, cool down show, and I'm in here talking about points in the paint and rebounding and what you need to do when you're icing the pick and roll and all that other stuff, right? So he comes back to me and he goes, all right, so this is what we're gonna do. We going forward. You're gonna be the guy, this, that, and the other. And immediately I'm like, oh no, I'm about to let this man down because I don't know shit about TV. I don't know what's gonna happen here. I don't know how this is gonna go. So I started doing teleprompter practice on YouTube. Set up prompter stuff, slow down prompter stuff.
Thanks for the pro tip. I need to do
I started looking for prompters on YouTube and did that for a little bit. Went in there for an audition because I had gone in for an audition on television once before, and that was for the Big Ten Network, probably in 05, 06. My guy Quentin, and I went there and stuck up the joint. It was horrible because I didn't know I was going to be the host. I thought I was just going to be a dude throwing out opinions. And when we sat down, the show before it was launched was the Big Ten Pulse. And I sat down, and I forget who I sat down with. I forget the brother's name. He went to Northwestern. It's going to kill me now, but I'm forgetting his name. But former football player. And he looks at me. He goes, "You all good?" I'm like, I don't know if I'm all good, but here we go. And the audition tape started, and I cursed twice. I didn't throw to the thing I needed to throw to. I was just the anxiety, of course. This is way before therapy. This is way before some coping techniques and understanding that it's not going to all fall down and letting pressure get to me. So fast forward to this opportunity, I knew who I was going up against, and there was some national names in there. And I thought to myself, if you don't get it, it's all good. Just go in there and hang out, be yourself. And sat down with Will and KG, knocked it out. First one, I was very nervous, but they couldn't tell. Second one, super nervous because we did 2 tapes that day. And then went home, sat and waited for the call. And then I was at the Soldier Field parking lot for, I don't think it was the Classic. I believe it was Hampton against somebody. And I'm in the parking lot. It's all the black love in the world going on. You know what I mean? People grilling. My man Bryson is out there with a Bunsen burner and all kinds of chemistry sets, whipping up special stuff because he's a scientist. My man E and his lady Tiffany got the music right there in the car. We all hanging out. We all having a ball. And I get a call. And it is from the Bulls, and they want to sit down and talk to me because they understand the interactions that I've had with them as an organization, in my previous affiliations, right? So I was like, all right, this is happening. And,
nice.
Went and talked to Michael Reinsdorf, talked to him about some of the things that should have been said, and then the things that he thought shouldn't have been said. I was like, hey, I didn't even say those. He was worried about, I was like, I don't know if you noticed, but I've been gone for 3 years. So those ones you can specifically attach to other people who don't sound nothing like me. But we go from there. The season started, and it was bad. The team was bad. So I was going off. That first year, every time they were bad, I'm like, hey, this ain't it, y'all. Just let you know, just setting the baseline, because I didn't want to come in there on some fraudulent sucker shit where it's like, oh, this ain't Goff. Who is this? I was just being myself. Right. And the numbers were better than what they were with the bad team. And I slowly but surely started to become a little bit more confident. That second episode, I had myself a little panic attack though. I had a situation where I was in the conference room. The pregame started at 6:30. It's about 6:10, 6:15. I can't move. I'm like, oh no, what's happening here? I'm like, what's going on? Like, this has never happened before. I don't know if it's a panic attack or anxiety attack, whatever, but I'm like, hey, this has never happened before. What's going on here? And Kevin Anderson, comes back there and he goes, "Hey, you ready to roll?" I'm like, "Yep." And I got up and went to the studio. But in that moment, I told myself, like, that can't happen again. Like, if you're going to do this, then it just is what it is. Take the pressure off of it. If you're not good at this, I had to stop looking at things as, if you can't do it, it's a failure, as opposed to, if you couldn't do it, then they wouldn't ask you. Right? So just do what you got to do. And 2.5 years later, it's my joint, Jason. In this last year, I told him, man, turn that prompter off.
Oh, wow.
Like, what are we doing? Like, I understand getting in and out of certain things, but yeah, the first 2 years, it's, me, like, I don't do that. Like, I don't speak in any other languages. I don't speak in anybody else's voice.
Yeah,
like,
man.
The malaprops and the poor grammar and the poor diction, whatever you're gonna get, you're gonna get it from me. You're gonna appreciate it. And if you don't appreciate it, maybe I'm not for you. Like, I've been telling a lot of people over the last, 6, 7, 8 months, man, sometimes I'm not the right man for the job.
Hey, and it's okay.
It's all right.
And it's okay,
all
brother.
Right. It's all right.
As we wrap up this amazing interview with Jason Goff, we talk about his endeavors in the future. We talk about just how he's been on it for such a long time, doing local and national stuff, and overall just being Jason Goff, being a really, really cool dude. And I know I mentioned somewhere in here that he's a really good dresser. I wasn't joking. Bro, swag is ridiculous. His closet is like Macy's. We'll go more with Jason, and then we'll come back and say our propers. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Goff.
Ernie is fantastic people. He reached out the other day, and I was blown away. Just saying, "Hey, man, you're really good at this." And being around Ernie a couple of times, only 2 or 3 times in my life, one in an official capacity of like interviewing him on Radio Row, and a couple other times when I was in Atlanta, Kenny Smith took me up to TNT to see how they do their thing, the behind the scenes aspect of it. And every single time he's been a gentleman, and he's a dude who, you get that warm, considerate, calm nature from him, but you also understand that he doesn't say anything he doesn't have to because of his status in the game and how long he's been doing it. Yeah. And when he reached out, it meant a lot to me. I screenshot it and sent it to my mom, and sent it to Pia, sent it to Shayna, and sent it to everybody, because it's like it's one of those things where it's like, I'm 41 and I can still be a fan, and I'm a fan of his forever. And it kind of was it was confirmation that I'm gonna be able to figure this thing out sooner or later.
I gotta say this to you as I get ready to wrap this up, man. One, thank you for being on.
No problem, bro.
2, I mean this sincerely. You, Lawrence Holmes, and Jonathan Hood. I know I'm older by default. I'm older than the 3 of you, but I have learned more listening and watching the 3 of you operate, not just as radio or TV guys, but as men, than I can ever articulate. I think one of the best things about living in Chicago right now is that I've had a chance to watch the 3 of you guys literally grow up in your craft. You all are very important to this city. Don't ever let anybody tell you not. If you all go off and do national stuff, I get it, because you have to eat and having a place to live is nice as well. But the idea that there are so many people who admire and really listen to the things that the 3 of you say, it's mad important to me. And I am so glad that you agreed to be on Randomly Selected, man. Thank you. Thank you a million times. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Mario. You already know that, man. There's very few people that catch me in both professional and personal settings, and there's a reason why you're around both of them, because it's I rock with you, man. And
if I get a Jason Goff text, I always answer it.
You already know. I appreciate you, man. And the difference between me and Lawrence and Jonathan is, and this has stuck with me for a long time, like the route, right? Mm-hmm. The route that we all got to where we got to. there's all different paths. It's all different routes, right? I mean, hell, for me, moved to Evanston when I was 7 years old, right? Before that, lived on the north side of Chicago. And I always used to think like, man, like even going to my grandmother's house every weekend, 8845 South State Street, God bless her soul.
There it is.
I mean? And hanging out on the crazy 80s on Wabash, hanging out with all the fellas, right? I always felt like not displaced, but like, man, like do I have solid footing or roots in either one of these worlds? And to fast forward 25, 30 some years now, there's not a neighborhood that I can't walk into comfortably. There's not a part of this city that I feel won't rep for me at any given moment, whether it be suburbs or the hundreds. I appreciate this city like none other because of that instance, because sometimes you do feel like, oh man, I didn't have the same backgrounds as some of these people, but they treat me like family, right? And they hold me down like family. And when shit hits the fan, they always there. And for that, I'm appreciative. I don't know what it is I put out there, but I'm always appreciative for the love that I get back from this city and guys like you and everybody running around. So thank you, man. I appreciate you for having me.
Right on, brother. Thank you for being on Randomly Selected. I want to thank Jason Goff for being our guest on Randomly Selected. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to talk to my friends on this show, and Jason is definitely one of them. And he's a really solid cat, man. And I hope you guys check out all his work, particularly The Full Go. It's really, really good, and you should be listening to that. Shout out to my man Chris Tannehill, too. What up, Chris? Tanny in the building. We'll be back soon with more Randomly Selected. And in the meantime, keep your eyes and ears open. Big things happening around the Silver Room. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.